Hey folks, Eric Dillon here. You know what time it is. Oh yeah, it's time for another installment. So, I'm on my way to work. Polo shirt, as you can tell. And, last night I was looking through some of the videos that I haven't posted yet of these installments. And I had one where I was talking about waking up at 3 in the morning and then not being able to fall back asleep. I realized as I was reviewing through it, there was some kind of rattling. I don't know what the hell it was in here in the Trackhawk that was making so much freaking noise, but it was so annoying that I was like, you know what? That might be one that I actually redo. I like to give you guys the raw, unedited, just cuts. Most I do now is put a little tag gimmick for like, subscribe, etc. Comment at the very end of it. But that being said, so what happened to me one night is I had my typical wake up in the middle of the night and take a piss. Now, that's something I've done ever since I was a wee little child. And God, I've talked a little bit on this channel about how I grew up with my grandparents. We had a tiny farmhouse that my grandparents built from plans. They built it themselves. With a crawl space for a cellar, just tall enough to put a hard water conditioner gimmick in, hot water heater, and whatnot down in the crawl space. But this place was tiny. It was built out of cinder blocks, basically. And so as a result, if I'd wake up in the middle of the night, flush the toilet, wake up the whole house. My grandpa used to get pissed off about that. Flushing the damn toilet, wake up the whole house. All right. So what I'm trying to establish there is the point that I have always woke up in the middle of the night to take a piss. I've tried to do some things to address that, like I was reading about taking salt tablets, sodium chloride tablets right before you go to bed to affect your ADH or your anti-diuretic hormone and keep you from waking up and pissing. But oh my God, I like salt. I'm the guy that will eat the chunks of salt out the bottom of the pretzel bag, and I use a lot of Redmond salt on my food and whatnot. So I like salt. Salt has a bad reputation, especially like in my profession, in my world. Well, Doc Johnson says my blood pressure gets high from the salt. No, Frederick, that's not the case. It's because you're getting table salt in your system and not actually mineralized salt, like Redmond's, and there's a handful of others. Himalayan salt, Celtic salt, etc. But these sodium chloride tablets, I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried them. Oh my God. Now, it's been a minute since I've done that, attempted that, but when I did, I immediately puked them up. It made my mouth water really heavily, and I just couldn't hold them down. I got a fairly strong stomach, but for some reason, those sodium chloride tablets did not sit well with me. So as a result, I was never able to actually try that to see if it would keep me from waking up in the middle of the night. But when it comes to sleep, that's a great subject right there. Sleep, as we all know, is so damn important for everything from recovery, to consolidation of memories in our head, just your general overall health is so connected to your sleep. And over the years, like, I had a couple of apps that I paid for that I used that were just strictly through the phone. There was no wearables involved, like a smartwatch or a ring or anything like that. And I tried these apps, and they would tell me stuff like, oh, you had 0 minutes and 0 hours of deep sleep last night, which I was always a little bit sketchy of that being accurate. I was skeptical of it because I thought, okay, you know, one night you might have a little bit less than the average, which I believe is anywhere from an hour to 2 hours-ish of deep sleep. Your deepest restorative sleep that you have. Non-REM, non-REM sleep. But, you know, I kept paying for these two dumbass apps. I'd like to call them out, but I'm not going to play that game. And, you know, it was just agitating to have paid for an app that you turn it on, set the phone by the bed, plugged in, wake up in the morning, take a look at your sleep score, and see something that pitiful. So, as a result, I quit using them. Waste of time. Absolute waste of time. But then, you know, diving into the research behind deep sleep and just sleep in general, I started wondering, hey, maybe some of these injuries that I've had, these muscle tears that I've talked about, and what not else, maybe some of that has came from, you know, not getting deep enough sleep. So I looked at some of the, like I said, smart devices, you know, watch, rings, etc. And I ordered, it took about 2 weeks for it to show up, a Circle, CIRCUL, circlesense.com is the website for that particular wearable smart ring. I just started using this a couple days ago. And lo and behold, it starts telling me that I'm actually getting deep sleep at night. Instead of these ridiculous, I'm paying like $40 a year, which isn't a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's still $40 to an app company, to a developer for an app that tells you basically nothing. Now, one of them did record some of my snoring episodes, which, I don't get embarrassed by much, but snoring, God, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And it's also indicative that you're not getting the depth of sleep that you should be, because when you're snoring, there is also that chance that you're going into a sleep apnea situation, which the monitoring on this ring so far, I've only used it for a couple nights, and it takes cumulative, I think 4 nights cumulative before it starts, you know, checking into that. But it also has, you know, all the typical heart rate variability. There's an option for blood pressure monitoring, a recovery score, your deep sleep, sleep apnea monitoring, activity monitoring, your step count, all those kinds of things, which I noticed, strangely enough, the step count doesn't quite seem to be on, because it's told me that I was one man walking, taking steps when I was sitting on the couch. Strangely enough, the activity monitoring might be a little bit off. I've used it when I lift, and, you know, basically just hit the start monitoring, and then you select what activity you're doing, and it gives you an estimate of the calories that you burned and checks out your heart rate and whatnot during exercise. So, I mean, is it better than those apps? Absolutely. I'm curious to see over time what it tells me and what it monitors. I've also tried hostage tape, taping my mouth shut at night, and that's a habit that I've kind of went in and out of and in and out of. I've tried to be more regular with it lately, just in the interest, like I said, of getting better sleep, because it's so damn important for everything. No matter how much I talk on this channel about mental attitude and being positive and having a shift to a more positive mental mindset, and how that affects everything from your day-to-day life to your manifestations, your affirmations, all these things are all intertwined, right? You still got to sleep. You've got to get good sleep. And like I said, in the interest of chasing that good sleep, I've used hostage tape, taped my mouth shut, double-sided mouth guard, nasal strips to open up this bent beak, as you can see, that points left, points west from all the times I've had my nose broken in. He broke it in my nose. He broke it in my nose. Yeah. That's happened to me a handful of times. MMA and fighting and BJJ and wrestling and whatnot. I've broken my nose. And as a result, I've ended up going through periods of my life where I've used medicated nasal spray, oxymetazoline, nasal spray like Afrin, Sinex, etc. And I'll give you my caveat as a pharmacist. If you ever use that stuff to clear your clogged beak, okay, that's cool. Make sure that you don't use it for more than 3 days. I cannot emphasize that enough because, like I said, there's been periods of my life where I have used Afrin or Sinex for more than 3 days. And as time has went by, then I've realized, oh, I should quit using this. And you get to the point where you can't, because rebound congestion is a real thing, folks. And holy shit, is it bad. Because the rebound congestion that you get, like let's say you're just a bit of nasal congestion, can't breathe too well through your nose, through well. So you use the Afrin, you use the medicated nasal spray. Now I'm not talking about Flonase or fluticasone, mometasone, any of the corticosteroid, glucocorticoid nasal sprays. Those can be used year-round for allergies, for congestion that's, caused by whatever environmental issue, pollen, allergens, etc. They don't have that same rebound congestion effect. But the medicated nasal sprays most certainly do. And what'll happen to you is you'll get to the point where you're addicted to them. I know it sounds silly, but you will end up with one in your console, one at home, one in the bathroom, one on you when you go places. Yeah. I mean, there's been many a social event that I've been to where I've had to dip to the vehicle and hit a spray or two to be able to open up, and it makes you feel like a crackhead, because not being able to breathe is a terrible feeling, especially when you're laying down at night and you get in that state akin to sleep. You're just about falling asleep and you legit feel like someone is freaking choking you. So you wake up startled, come out of that state akin to sleep startled. It's a bastard, it really is. But the only way to avoid that, if you need to use...
to exit the highway in 2 miles at exit 29A.
Now, as I said, on my way to work, but seeing if I can beat the GPS. And today I'm actually early, so let us stop that GPS in the interest of it not interrupting us again. So, yeah, all these different things that I've used for sleep. Good Lord. And like I was talking about that hostage tape, hats off to them for their persistence in their marketing and whatnot. I think in that other video too, as I was fast forwarding through it, trying to see if any of it was salvageable, I was talking about waking up in the middle of the night and eating as well, like having the tendency to be standing there in my chonies in my drawers at 3, 4 in the morning, crinkling wrappers, chomping on whatever. Oh God. And that, I just picturing myself in my head, what a piglet I must have looked like doing that. Here's the thing for you guys at hostage tape. If your mouth is taped shut, you're probably not going to be able to eat in the middle of the night. So there's a marketing idea for you guys. Hostage tape not only helps with snoring, which is, I think, one of the top 3 causes of divorce in the U.S. Yeah, and we can all see why. But also for the fact that you don't want to mess up your tape by unpeeling it, eating, and then sticking it back on your lips. Even little tiny bird lips like mine. Those little tiny lippers. Yeah, hostage tape works. It sticks. It actually does. There's a lot of people questioning or people have questioned before whether it'll work with the beard or mustachio, and I'm here to tell you, yes, it does. And that being said, if I have to, wake up in the middle of the night and I'm parched, I'm just dying for water, something to drink, you can peel it off your top lip at least, so you can get some liquid down your gullet and quench your thirst, or use a straw. Just have to peel the corner of it. But like any kind of tape, it only has so much capacity to be peeled off and stuck back on, and peeled off and stuck back on before the adhesive just loses its grip. So yeah, you guys at Hostage Tape, you want another marketing idea, not just the anti-snoring and save your marriage kind of stuff, but also the keep yourself from overeating by eating a rack of Oreos in the middle of the night or whatever you have in the house. Oh God. So yeah, that night that I recorded a video the next day talking about waking up and not being able to fall back asleep, that is a shit bird of a feeling, because no matter how strong you are mentally, I don't know that there's very many humans that can just fling themselves into bed and command their body to shut off and go to sleep. We all have an inner voice, well, with the exception of very, very, very few tiny, small percentage of people that have no internal voice. But the majority of us have an inner voice, thoughts, recollections. We're talking to ourselves about how the day went, or, in that case, waking up, not being able to fall back asleep. You're too hot, you're too cold. And the analogy that I've always used, when you walk into a gas station and you see the hot dogs on that silver rollers, and they're just endlessly rotating. That's what it feels like to be awake in the middle of the night. You're just rotating in the covers. You throw them off, you pull them back on. You try just the sheet. You try nothing. You try hugging the pillow a different way. You flip-flop the other direction. Maybe if you have dogs sleeping in the bed with you, you rearrange where your legs are at so the little one or the big one, can be in a different spot. There's a myriad of things that you do to try to get comfortable, but the analogy that I use is just that. Gas station hot dogs rotating endlessly. That's how it feels sometimes. God, you talk to yourself, inevitably, seems like for me at least, you look at what time it is. Oh man, 15 minutes has went by. I gotta be up at 6, let's say. Oh, half an hour's went by, it's already 3:30. I gotta be up at 6. Come on, go to sleep. And the spiral, that downward spiral of negative thoughts and self-talk gets pretty shitty pretty quickly when you can't get to sleep. And I don't care if that's because you've woke up in the middle of the night like I'm talking about, or you've just initially laid down and you can't seem to get your monkey ass to sleep. That's a bad feeling. Oh, God, that's a bad feeling. Believe me, folks, if I had the way to cure that, I most certainly would. And I try to look at it from, I guess, silver lining, positive lens of attitude of saying, yeah, okay, here's another opportunity for me to go into state akin to sleep and do a little bit more visualization, manifestation, affirmation, etc. Okay, let me take advantage of that. But, you know, there are times that no matter how much you detach from having to put yourself into that, and I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna fall asleep, for whatever reason, you're still that hot dog on that damn silver roller. Oh, so, yeah, some nights, like I said, if I've used double-sided mouth guard, hostage tape, nasal strips, glycine, like 5 to 10 grams of glycine before bed, which lowers your core temperature, helps with, a myriad of different things. It's got all kinds of health benefits, but, you know, I've tried that for sleep as well. What else? Magnesium glycinate. Tried 400, I think the capsules that I have, 2 of them are 420 milligrams. Magnesium is another one that has been proven to help with sleep. Apigenin, which is active ingredient in chamomile, hence people recommending chamomile tea before bed to help sleep. There's such a laundry list of things. You know, I've tried Ambien too, and it Ambien has some other side effects, which that's a whole different installment. That's a whole different installment. Yeah. My point is, I've had the problem of waking up in the middle of the night for a long time. I did another installment about this. The video was all jacked up for some reason, so I'm kind of covering this specific topic. Leading back, of course, still to the positive mental attitude, like, you know, a rough night of sleep will throw you off, and of course it's going to set you up for some tough stuff the next day. Now, one of the more interesting things that I've seen as of late, too, is our good old friend creatine. You know, over the years, creatine has been one of the most studied performance-enhancing supplements. No, it's not a steroid and all that other nonsense. It doesn't make your hair fall out, which I guess it couldn't do too terrible much to me if that were the case. My Charlie Brown hairs on the top of my head. Yeah. But creatine, instead of the standard 5 grams a day dosage that we have seen for enhancement of exercise and also some neuroprotective prevention of different neurogenic diseases like Alzheimer's and whatnot. Now we've seen that higher dosages, i.e. 15 to 25 grams taken at once, can make a difference with that kind of situation where you had a terrible night of sleep, you wake up dragging ass and need something. Now, is it a stimulant per se? No, that's not the mechanism of action for creatine, but just those higher dosages. And I've only seen a few preliminary just little quips and clips and articles about using that for said purpose. So that's interesting. I typically take 15 to 20 grams when I get up anyway, along with my BPC 157 and TB 500 capsule form and a handful of other stuff that there's another installment. See, I just, even if I didn't ramble, I just got so many damn different things to talk about. Yeah, going to work, thinking about that whole sleep thing, because, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you're not very well rested, of course, a positive mental attitude is going to be the best thing for your day. But hey, if there's supplements and other things that you can do that'll help you get through that day, Because sleep debt is a bastard. You know, there's been times that, especially, I think I've touched on this before, when I worked overnights, third shift, pharmacy, the sleep debt that I would accumulate by the end of the week. You know, there was Wednesdays when I would be off work, the beginning of my week off from that week on of work, where I would be in the bed up and down, you know, a few times to, like I said, piss and eat and whatnot, but that whole Wednesday was gone. So I'd be home Wednesday morning, all through Wednesday night and up until Thursday. Just an entire day of fitful sleep and, you know, hot dogs spinning on the silver rollers kind of a deal. That's no wonder third shift is so terrible for your body. Circadian rhythm disruption and sleep debt. Yeah. All the other crap that goes along with it. But yeah, let me know if you've experienced that waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to fall back asleep. What kinds of methods, tips, tricks, what kind of stuff have you done? How do you get back to sleep? Or do you? Do you lay there and fret about it, as many of us do? I try to just release the frustration, the worry, the stress, and go back to that ideation, that mantra in my head that this is all a simulation. This is all just a big experiment. Don't take life too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. You know, there's things in life you have to take seriously, but the less you stress, the better off things are. For sure. Even if your current situation in the 3D reality isn't where you want to be, stress, it's there. If you've put your intention and your manifestation and your affirmations, if you've put in that work and then detached from the how and the when, and you truly want something in life, truly want something more in life, believe that you deserve it, number one. You know, because if you tell yourself that you want to be free of all debts, for example, but then the rest of the day you're cursing the fact that your bank account isn't overflowing with overwhelming abundance, you're fighting yourself. You're causing resistance, and resistance only prolongs the end result. That being said, it doesn't mean that you can just go and spend your money willy-nilly or anything like that, but resist the urge to look for something negative to fight something positive. Hey, like I always say on here, it's taken me a lifetime to truly figure that out, and brick by brick, I'm working on it. Everybody's a work in progress, but recognizing that we all are, and giving yourself grace and forgiveness for being a work in progress yourself as well as others. You know, I learned the hard way, for sure, that harboring deep-seated resentment, bitterness, anger, hatred against other people, and more importantly, against yourself, is never a route to anything beneficial at all. At all. All you're doing is poisoning yourself, and as a result, I'm here to tell you, you'll poison anything good that's around you, because all the good will be gone if you are angry like that, and you're negative like that, and you'll wish so hard that that you would have addressed those issues earlier and that you would have started the process of changing yourself and your mental attitude to letting go of anger. That doesn't mean you're not going to get mad about something. That doesn't mean if somebody cuts you off in traffic, you know, that there isn't going to be a reaction and like, you know, a jolt, so to speak. You're never going to be able to eliminate that, but recognize it for what it is. And before you react, relax. Relax and release that. Use that emotion as a warning sign, like, oh, you know, I'm glad I noticed that somebody slammed on their brakes in front of me because it allowed me to avoid running into them, let's say. But bitching at that person, you know, who knows what's going on? You have no clue why that person slammed on their brakes. Maybe they're allergic to bees, and there's a freaking bee in their vehicle, you know, like clinically allergic to the point where they're carrying an EpiPen because they go into anaphylactic shock. That's probably a pretty good reason, you know, compared to just generally being an asshole for slamming on their brakes in front of you. And it doesn't mean that you excuse people from bad behavior just because you're not going to react to their actions. It means that you're actually recognizing that you have control over your reactions. You may not have control over your emotions. May not. You don't. But you can control how you react to that emotion, blinking that light. Blinking that little warning light or that little, hey, look at me, pay attention to me. Oh, okay. I see you and I send you on your way. I release you. How the fuck? God, see, now this is, once again, Eric Dillon Rambles. How was I going from sleep? Oh, yeah, because it all ties back to mental attitude. And shifting to a more positive viewpoint. If you had a bad night of sleep, it sucks. And I've been there many a time. But using that as the first step towards a shitty day, that only makes things worse, folks. It really does. So, I guess in a long roundabout way, I did come back to my niche, my general subject matter categorization, I would say, of this channel, which is just mindset. Even though I talked about mouth tape and all these other sleep habit type things. So here I am pulling up to this particular place of work today, different than usual, but still usual for me. Anyway, that's not important. I will catch you guys in the next one. I'll talk to you then. Bye.